Yo, what is going on, you guys? Bastion YJO here, and today we're going to be taking a look at what exactly did happen at YCS Pasadena that just happened and concluded just yesterday around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night Central Time. So it's still kind of fresh. I know I've posted a few of the replays on the channel. If you have not checked this out, be sure to do so on the channel. But essentially what ended up happening was the top 32. Let's go ahead and start off at the top 32. Well, prior to, a little bit before then. So prior to, a lot of the feature matches we were getting had Ishizu tier limit. Already seeing this, because normally when they have feature matches, what they try to do is they try to get, different type of decks. I think YCS Trek, whatever it was, we had a 6 Samurai build, kind of crazy, kind of funky. I think pretty sure we had Crystal Beast on set. They try to find these wacky decks just so that it's more entertaining, more interesting stuff. So it was nothing but tier limit Ishizu for the majority of the day, I want to say, at least day one. And of course, we had a few sprite mirror matches, full wanderies every now and then. For the most part, it was Ishizu tier limit, which already told me a lot of what I need to know. But when it comes down to the top 32, 26 of the top 32 duelists were playing Ishizu tier limit, and I'll go ahead and have the display up here on the screen for you guys. But that is insane to think about, and I personally believe it is not a tier 0 format essentially just yet. I mean, the cards literally just dropped 3 or 4 days ago. This happens all the time whenever we get brand new cards into the meta. No one exactly knows how to counter them just yet. There's a lot of back and forth as far as what needs to be done, but there's not enough time for testing as far as physical the cardboard goes. So that goes into it quite a bit, but I do want to say this is close to a tier 0, 0.5 format as we're going to get in a while, and this is a bit more concerning because this is going to be the format for the next, I want to say, 4 to 5, maybe 6 months from now. Again, depending on when Konami wants to eventually bless us with a ban list, or at least until the cash tier / cash money cards come out. For those of you guys who are wondering what the other 6 decks were made up of, essentially it was 3 full wanderies and 3 sprite decks. What we are seeing here is that there's no way that you are going to be at least a competitive setting from what we can get from the first week. Again, this is definitely the more overreaction weekend, let's be real about it. But I currently do not see another deck that can do well and can compete with the Ishizu tier limit. Just by the sheer amount of times I just saw him completely go off, even with the finals match, it was extremely intense and cerebral match. I do not see any deck can go up against it unless they can main deck cards that mess with this deck. Cards like Macrocosmos, cards like Dimension Shifter, cards like all the Bestial cards that mess with their graveyard. And even then, they have cards in their graveyard with the new Ishizu cards, I forgot which ones they are, that shuffle cards from either graveyard back into the decks, which is crazy. So even if you were to try to target with DD Crow, they can just go ahead and chain, because it's a quick effect in the graveyard. They chain their Ishizu card, shuffle it back. That way they don't lose out on it. Put it back into their deck to use at a later time. So I just think having that amount of consistency and having that amount of power that the deck overall already has is actually just ridiculous to even think about. And the fact that we had one Bestial Sprite player make it to the top 4, I think is a blessing in disguise. I think a lot of people are going to start taking a look at this and thinking of ways to go ahead and counter it. So other ways that I've considered countering it is potentially if you're going to go for a going first sprite build specifically against tier limits, you play different Dimension Ground, Dimension Fissure, Macrocosmos, these cards like in the main deck, which is again very risky. I'm not saying it's a good idea, I'm just saying these are cards that you can play. Of course, you can still play Dimension Shifter. Going first is less good. Less good, is that proper English? Yeah, it's fine. So anyway, what I think his name was Vincent, who was playing in the top 8 and top 4 feature matches with the Bestial Sprite. I think what he was doing was very interesting. Essentially, what it looked like he had was a going second Bestial Sprite deck. I know that he decided to go first against Jesse Cotton in top 4, which is something that I don't really know what he was trying to do there. Maybe he didn't have Dimension Shifter in the main deck, but just from what we saw in the previous duels and what we saw after the first game, I think that deck is strictly made to go second, which I think is probably going to be the best way to go ahead and counter the Ishizu tier limit deck. So what's his main weakness? Of course, is going to be the graveyard. So cards that can help affect the graveyard tend to be better suited to going second decks. Again, like I said, DD Crow, Dimension Shifter, cards like all the Bestial cards, playing all of those. Skullmeister as well is fantastic going second. Ghost Bell is great going first or second. So all these cards, essentially what I'm trying to get at, guys, is that a lot of these cards really benefit from going second, especially the Bestial cards. Bestial cards are probably going to be the main focal point of this this part of the conversation, where they become quick effects if your opponent controls a monster. So just being able to have that in a going second deck, giving you another body on board, giving you a big body on board, don't get me wrong. I believe all the Bestials are around 2,000 or more attack, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comment section down below. But as far as that is concerned, that is something that is huge for the Sprite decks. So not only does it give you a big body, but it also gives you an additional fodder to go ahead and use as a material for your links, and then you can go ahead and exes it off that way as well. Because the Sprite links say you have to use at least one level 2, rank 2, whatever, link 2. So what that means is that you have the opportunity to use a higher level monster or a lower level monster for at least one of the materials, which gives you, again, access to cards like Sprite Sprend, Sprite Elf, which then gives you access to Gigantic Sprite. So I think the issue with the going second Sprite build is that you are going to have to focus a lot more on the OTK side of things as well. So that is something that we have to consider, and I think this is becoming more of like a let's build Sprite deck instead of a YCS breakdown deck. But I just want to go ahead and get my thoughts out there, guys. So playing things like Cat Shark, with which I believe his name is Vincent. Again, Vincent was doing as well, making sure that you are able to put enough damage on board is something that I think is going to be the standard for Sprite moving forward. And I think in the next YCS, we're going to see a much more evenly split top 32. Again, because this is the first week and the cards are out, literally cards be out for like 3 or 4 days, I think it's a bit of an overreaction that it's a tier 0 format, even though 26 of the 32 slots were a Shizu tier limits. I think that giving this deck a little bit of time, I think that we have another YCS next week, and I think that's where we're really going to see exactly what needs to be done, how other decks can go ahead and adapt to it, because it's not just Sprite that can put up a fight. Of course, Fluandries is up there as well. Of course, Fluandries, I think a lot of us more or less expected Fluandries to still be able to put up a fight, being able to, of course, main deck D-Shifter. Naturally, they already have an advantage over the tier limit deck as a given, but of course only 3 making it, I think, is something that they can learn from as well to see what that deck can do moving forward. The one deck that has a bit of a lower ceiling that I do not think we're going to be seeing anymore is going to be Extra Sisters. With the Extra Sister archetype, I just don't think it has enough firepower to be able to combat with all the things that Shizu tier limit can do. At least the Fluandries deck has M-Pen, has a trap card that helps disrupt your opponent. You can tribute your opponent's cards, so it has a lot more interruption that way than the Extra Sister deck. So I think the top few decks of the format is something that's going to be a fun discussion, and probably going to be a future video this week. But again, we'll see where it goes from there. But at this point, what I'm seeing is going to be Shizu tier element, Sprites, and Fluandries as top 3. Of course, there's the only decks at top because they, again, have the capability to play the immediate main deck out to Shizu tier limit. So that's going to be it for my initial breakdown, guys, initial thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is this a tier 0 format? Let me know. We can go ahead and discuss it in the comment section down below. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and address it down below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.